Have you ever wanted to say something so precise that the other person just goes silent? Not with shouting, not with insults, but with pure intelligence. Imagine being in the middle of an argument and, with a single sentence, making the other person lower their voice, look at you differently and have nothing more to say. Today, I will reveal 5 responses so powerful that when you use them, they silence anyone. It doesn't matter if you're talking to a boss, a difficult family member, or someone who simply wants to impose their will. These responses not only protect you, but also place you in a position of power without losing your calm. And pay close attention. Number 3, if used correctly, can disarm even the most skilled manipulator. Stay until the end, because you're going to want to practice every single one of them. And when you apply them, you will notice the silence. Everyone at some point has felt that frustration. You're saying something logical, valid, necessary, but the other person simply isn't listening. And worse, they seem to be winning the argument, not because they're right, but because they shout louder, interrupt faster, or attack more aggressively. In our culture, strength is often associated with volume, conviction with imposition, and respect with fear. But that isn't respect, it's momentary domination. And true power isn't about imposing your will, but about expressing yourself with such clarity and control that the other person has no choice but to listen. Response 1. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. There are times when someone raises their voice, believing it gives them more authority. They shout, interrupt, impose themselves, and expect you to do the same. But if you fall into that game, you've already lost. This phrase is an elegant way to step out of the noise without leaving the conversation. Imagine a meeting, a discussion at home, or even a conversation on the street. The other person raises their tone, trying to dominate the atmosphere. And you, instead of responding with the same fire, maintain control and say calmly, I don't need to raise my voice to be right. It's a phrase that not only stops the attack, but sends a clear message. You don't play on the field of emotional confrontation. You play on the field of mental dominance. In that instant, the person listening realizes that something has changed. You're no longer arguing, you're leading. The Stoics taught that self-control is not repression, it is real strength. Epictetus said, he who cannot control his tongue will be a slave to his emotions. And that's exactly what you're demonstrating with this response. You don't need to shout because your logic is enough. You don't need to impose yourself because your confidence already does it for you. This phrase not only silences the one who shouts, but also opens the eyes of those around you. Because when you speak with serenity in the face of a storm, everyone notices who holds the true power. Response 2. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. When someone attacks you with sarcasm, mockery, or contempt, the most tempting thing is to respond in kind. But that's where many people lose. This phrase is like a clean mirror. It doesn't respond with violence, it doesn't defend with desperation. It simply reflects what the other person is showing. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. By just saying this, you deactivate the venom in their words because you're not insulting them. You're not seeking approval, and you're not accepting their game. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone makes a hurtful comment. You could retaliate, but instead you look at them calmly and say that phrase. And then something unexpected happens. They hear themselves, and in doing so, they feel the weight of their own words. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And this phrase is the perfect translation of that principle. You not only maintain your peace, but also force the other person to confront their own disrespect. Furthermore, there is a powerful lesson here. When you don't react as they expect, you change the script. And when you change the script, you change the dynamic. This phrase is for those who have decided not to stoop, not to surrender, and not to let the attitude of others define who they are. The Stoics understood this more than 2,000 years ago. Epictetus, who was born a slave and ended up teaching wisdom to the powerful in Rome, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." And this teaching has incredible depth, because what truly defines your character and the respect others offer you is not what you experience, but how you respond to what you experience. In the context of an argument, that means one thing very clearly. You don't need to shout to win. You need to respond with precision. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, ruled an entire empire without losing his composure. And he didn't do it because he was weak. He did it because he knew that whoever controls themselves controls the situation. His serenity was his weapon, his self-control, his power. Today, we live in a world that rewards quick reactions, impulsive opinions, and hurtful responses. But whoever learns to respond with intelligence becomes an anomaly, someone memorable. And that's the kind of person others listen to, even when they disagree. Seneca said, "To speak in anger is like shooting an arrow without aiming." A thoughtless phrase can destroy a relationship, close a door, or make you lose the respect that was so hard to earn. Therefore, what you are about to learn are not phrases to humiliate the other person. They are tools to defend your dignity with elegance, to set boundaries without violence, and to make even your harshest critics fall silent. Because when you speak with clarity, calm, and confidence, you are no longer arguing. You are leading. Response 3. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. Some conversations are not conversations. They are attacks disguised as dialogue. The other person interrupts, raises their voice, imposes their truth, and expects you to keep up. But you are not obligated to participate in a dirty game. This phrase is not a retreat. It's a declaration of principles. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. It's direct, mature, and firm. You're not running away. You're raising the standard. Imagine you're arguing with someone who won't let you finish a thought. They interrupt you again and again. Their tone is aggressive. Instead of escalating the tension, you pause. You breathe and say calmly, "Let's talk when we can do it respectfully." At that moment, you shift the axis of the conversation. It's no longer about the topic being discussed. It's about the minimum conditions required for that conversation to have meaning. This type of response, according to Epictetus, is a reflection of self-mastery. He said you cannot control what others do, but you can control what you accept. And by saying this phrase, you are making it clear what you accept and what you don't. You don't need to shout or over-explain. You just establish an emotional boundary that forces the other person to look at themselves and often to be quiet. Because whoever cannot speak with respect loses the privilege of speaking with you. Response 4. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. There are moments when continuing to talk is pointless. The other person isn't listening, doesn't want to understand. They only want to win, even if it's at the cost of hurting you. And that's where this phrase becomes your shield. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. It's simple, it's clear, and it's profoundly powerful. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't justify itself. It just puts an end to it. Imagine you're arguing with someone who insists on provoking you. Every word they say is laced with poison, and you feel your patience wearing thin. Instead of exploding, you breathe, look at them with serenity, and say, "I'd prefer not to continue this conversation." That phrase has an immediate effect. It cuts the toxic dynamic at the root. And most importantly, it gives you back control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." And when you choose not to continue, you are protecting your energy, your focus, and your dignity. This is not giving up. It's deciding that your peace is worth more than having the last word. And whoever sees you do that understands that you're not avoiding conflict. You're rising above it. This phrase is like locking a door, and sometimes closing that door is the greatest act of strength. Response 5. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Not all arguments are with enemies. Sometimes they are with friends, colleagues, or family members who insist on imposing their worldview on you. They do it with good intentions, but without realizing it, they cross your boundaries. And that's when you need a phrase that marks your position with respect but without yielding. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. It's a response that doesn't confront, but it does define. It's like saying, "I hear you, I value you, but I have my own judgment." Imagine someone close to you insists on convincing you of something, a decision you don't want to make, a belief you don't share, a judgment you don't consider fair. Instead of arguing point by point or staying silent to avoid tension, you tell them in a firm, calm voice, "That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it." What follows is magical. The other person is forced to accept your stance, with no room to attack it, because you're not dismissing their point of view, you're just reaffirming your own. Seneca said it clearly, "To be a slave to the opinion of others is the worst of all prisons." And this phrase is the key to escaping that prison. It's an elegant way of saying, "I think for myself, and I don't need your approval to do so." Using this response frequently gives you something few people have: emotional independence. And when someone notices they can't pressure you, they begin to respect you even more. Now you have 5 responses that not only defend you, but strengthen you. 5 phrases that, when said with serenity, confidence, and clarity, make the other person fall silent. Not because you've crushed them, but because you've risen above them. Because respect isn't imposed by force, it's inspired by character. Let's remember them one more time. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Do not underestimate the power of these phrases. When you practice them and integrate them into your daily life, you'll notice something very clearly. People will start to listen to you more and tread more carefully around you, because you are no longer someone easy to manipulate or provoke. You are someone with presence, with control, and with a powerful voice. Here at Stoic Spring, I teach you to think, speak, and act with the wisdom of the great philosophers, so you can live with more respect, inner peace, and mental fortitude. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what's coming will transform you. And tell me in the comments, which of these phrases are you going to use first? I'd love to read your answers.